Right now, this is my favourite phone of the year so far. Previously, that title went to the S8 and I quickly switched that to the S8 Plus, but right now, my favourite device, arguably the best device out there, completely my opinion, but yeah, I'm really liking this device. So I'm just going to go through a few things, what I believe attracted me to this device and why I really like it, and what what appeals to me and probably will appeal to quite a few of you as well. So the first thing I'm just going to look at is the design. So the Note 8 continues the same design language as what we've seen on the S8 and the S8 Plus earlier on in the year. That infinity display, or the glass on the front and the back sandwiching a metal frame on the inside. It's nice, it's got a nice ergonomic to it, and it's a real kind of nice feel in the hand. Add to that the new aspect ratio, which a lot of manufacturers are using now, where the device itself is narrower, which gives you a bit more kind of grip in the hand, making that screen a little bit taller, but it also means you can get a bit more kind of real estate in there as well, which is great. So, beautiful design. I suppose the key differences between this versus the S range this year is, number one, the fact that it's a Note, so it has the S Pen housed at the bottom right hand corner there. And the second thing is actually the camera configuration on the back. As you'll see, as you probably already know, on the Note this year they've added a second camera, which we'll talk about later on. So big fan of the design. It's got a slightly more kind of squarer look in comparison to the S8, which I actually kind of prefer. But yeah, really like the design, happy with that, fantastic. So the next thing I want to talk about is that display, and wow, what a display it is. They know that Samsung no longer refer to it as the kind of edge display as they did in previous iterations. It's now regarded as the infinity display, and it's been like that for a couple of devices that they've launched now. But it really is quite something. The clarity is phenomenal. The immersiveness is brilliant, whether you're consuming YouTube or TV shows, movies, gaming. It's almost like the content spills over the screen, but it really is quite something to behold. They've actually gone a little step further and improved on the S range earlier on this year, which is it's a tough feat in itself, but I think they absolutely lead the way in this. I don't think this is an area for contention. I think if you ask pretty much anybody who knows anything about mobile phones, they'll agree that actually Samsung's displays are second to none. So really impressive with the display, really impressive, phenomenal. Another thumbs up for Samsung. So if we talk about something that's quite close to a lot of people's hearts when they're buying a smartphone, it is that camera. I touched on it earlier. So there is now a dual camera setup on the rear of the device. So two 12 megapixel OIS image sensors on the back. Now Samsung have always had really good optics when it comes to their range of devices, and they continue that trend. In fact, I believe they've improved it quite drastically, and arguably one of the best cameras on the market at the minute. The secondary camera, what that does is basically it adds for that kind of that blurred background effect. So at the minute that's massively popular. If you check any kind of social networking out, it's been a big thing for photographers as part of their day and day, but now people are getting that same effect via handsets now, and that's why a lot of manufacturers are adding these dual cameras. Some go with a telephoto, some go with a wide angle lens. Samsung have gone with that telephoto to add that effect. One really kind of cool thing I like about it, so Samsung refer to it as live photo, and the really good thing about it is actually you can control that blur effect pre and post, which is good. And it also, when you take your image using that setting, it takes two images. It takes one at the standard kind of wide angle and one at the telephoto. So actually, if you don't like the one that's zoomed in and with the blurred background, you can just revert back to the original image. So that's pretty good. I really like that. So for me, yeah, images have been fantastic. If you check me on Twitter, I've posted a few images on there. You can see the kind of clarity, and if you've seen numerous reviews about this phone, you'll know that a lot of people are in agreement in regards to the quality of the camera. It really is something else. I'd be quite intrigued to see how this holds up versus an iPhone 8 Plus. I've not had hands on with that yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about that. There's a lot of comparisons going on with both handsets, and it's not necessarily one is better than the other. It's more a case of preference in terms of one has the more vibrant colours, and I think iPhone tends to lean towards the more true colours. But if I get my hands on one of those, I'll be able to do a comparison and delve a bit deeper into it. But yeah, really impressed with the optics, really impressed with the camera. That's the thing I use mostly on my handset, so it's quite important to me. So again, another thumbs up for Samsung. So in terms of performance, now if I think about the UI and the software, previously known as TouchWiz, I was never a big fan of TouchWiz. I've mentioned it in previous videos, and I'm quite vocal about TouchWiz back in the day. Samsung don't kind of officially refer to the UI as TouchWiz anymore, and it's certainly improved. So that's a big step forward. It is really good. It's not perfect, so it's not the best, but it's not the worst. I think for me personally, I still kind of hold the Google Pixel and the OnePlus right up there in terms of that buttery smooth performance. But this is really up there. You know, it's in terms of actual multitasking, single tasking, flying around a device and doing different things. It's really good and it's really snappy. And it's got that extra kind of few gigs of RAM in comparison to other devices to help it with that. I've noticed a few kind of minor stutters, but overall really pleased with the performance. It's doing what I need it to do. Test of time will obviously paint a different picture because, as you well know, you use a phone for kind of 3 to 6 months and it really kind of gives you that true picture on how the device performs. So I'll kind of revisit the phone probably, you know, this side and also the other side of 2018 just to kind of see exactly how it's held up. Probably the one area of contention throughout anything that I'd seen about the device prior to owning it, and when I first started owning the device, it was the one area I was really kind of conscious about. So Samsung, obviously we all know what happened with the Note 7, rest in peace. So Samsung took a different direction, and I think there's a couple of reasons why the battery is smaller versus the S8 Plus. So the S8 Plus, if you don't already know, has a 3,500 milliamp battery, and the Note has a 3,300 milliamp battery, which is kind of strange because the Note has always had the bigger battery capacity in regards to its siblings. But there's kind of two reasons that springs to mind why I think that happened. So A, obviously, is the safety factor. You know, based on last year, based on the issues, I know they have this new kind of 7-8 point check that Samsung do, but I think they're really conscious in terms of making sure that they get it right and they nail it. So that's kind of, I think that was part of their thinking. The other part, I think, is just simply space. So to keep a device that's still, it's a large device, but it's small in regards to its screen size. So to have a phone like this, you forget that actually having an S Pen in there takes up that extra bit of room. Now I've seen a Note 7 and a Note 4 when they've been taken apart. I've not seen one of these when they've been taken apart, but I know from previous devices, when you do take them apart, the S Pen kind of housing pretty much takes up all of one side. Even though the S Pen doesn't fit all the way to the top, but it does take up all of pretty much one side, and then you've got a bit of dead space at the top. If it follows that kind of same kind of tradition, then suddenly the space you've got to work with is a lot smaller. So that's my kind of thinking behind it. But in terms of real world use for me, I was using the S8 Plus. I was getting a day out of it comfortably, probably finishing with around about 25%, 24%. With the same kind of habitual usage on the Note, I'm still getting through the day. I'm probably finishing with about 15, 14, 13%. So there is a difference of personally about 10%, I would say. It's going to differ from person to person, what you use, what you consume on a day-to-day basis. So yes, it's not as good as the S8 Plus. Yes, I wish it was better. But for me, it's great. I get a whole day out of it, and that's all I need. Plus, I'm never a million miles away from a charger, so I plug it into the wall, fast charging, or if I'm in the car, I just plug it in and I'm ready to go. So it doesn't bother me. Like I said, I kind of understand why Samsung did the thing they did, and I think it's just a case of, you know, you have to just manage it and deal with it. But yeah, no issues for me, works fine. And then I suppose let's talk about the S Pen. So the S Pen's a funny one because it seems to be people I've spoken to, it's very, very Marmite. I know people that have owned Note devices that don't use it, and then people like myself that use it all the time. And for me, I'm thinking if you're going to have a Note device, that's got to be one of the key reasons you're getting a Note, is because of that S Pen. So it's a key differentiator. There is no other phone on the market that gives you that same experience with that S Pen. And what I've found actually is it almost becomes an extension of my finger. The more you tend to use it, the more you tend to use it for everything. So even like when I'm sending a text message, I'll use the S Pen. When I'm web browsing, I'm using it to scroll up and down. But also when I need to click on certain things, if I'm on a full web page, it's more intricate and it allows me to do those things. There's so much to it. There's so many different options and things you can do with it. My kind of favourite things to do with it is, number one is the screen off memo. So when the screen is off, I can literally pop out the S Pen and start writing a message. Now that supports up to 100 notes now, and those notes can be pinned to the front screen. That's fantastic. It means I've always got effectively a pen and a pad with me, and there's always a moment in my day when I need to kind of write something down or jot a note down, and that's a big thing for me. So screen off memo, probably right up there with one of my favourite things the S Pen can do. The second thing is just Smart Select. So Smart Select is a great thing. You know, you think if you're using a PC or a Mac or whatever, and you're using some Photoshop software and you want to be able to kind of crop something and cut it out and copy it and paste it into something else and that kind of stuff. It's great for that. No matter what you're doing, no matter what you're creating, to be able to kind of smart select something, whether it be kind of a square, whether it be an oval, it can identify edges of things. So if there's a photo with a person in it, I can just freehand draw around the person and it will identify the edges of that person and just kind of squash in. The fact it can do that is a really, really impressive, powerful tool. And I use that a lot for different various things. So they're kind of my two favourite things. There is so much more to it. You could do kind of live translate with Google Translate now. You can use Bixby Vision via it as well. One of the new things is worth mentioning, actually, which is the ability to kind of annotate messages. I think it's called Live Message. I'm pretty sure it is called Live Message. I will double check. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the comments below. But I'm sure it's called Live Message, where you can actually just do a message and it almost becomes a GIF, and you can then send that to someone via Facebook Messenger, via WhatsApp, via whatever it is you use. So that's just one of the new features in there, but there is so much to it. But I just wanted to touch on kind of my personal two favourite things about the S Pen. So that's my thoughts on the Galaxy Note 8. Have you got the device? Are you planning on getting the device? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any questions you've got, put them in the comments below. Also, I'll get round to kind of answering those as soon as I can. If there's anything else you want to know in terms of this versus a comparative device that I have, I'll be happy to try that as well. If you've liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, because that really helps me out. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you guys next time. Peace.